Welcome to the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright, an exciting thrill ride through the wonderful world of HBCU athletics. Before our trip begins, let's set a few ground rules. First, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Second, hit the like button. Third, please be sure to tell someone else about this show. Now that we've got these things out of the way, it's time for our journey to begin. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your ride.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to a very special episode on The Ride. All right, so just so everybody knows, just make sure you hit the like button the entire time. If you're joining us for the very first time, or if you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button. So we're going to do something really cool tonight. As you saw in the title, this is called the HBCU Chronicles. And tonight, I am pleased to be joined by none other than the very first year he's got that very brand new, new car smell on his job there at Prairie View. You saw his introductory press conference a little more than a month ago, and I'm pleased to welcome him now. Please welcome Head Coach Tremaine Jackson. Hey, Coach.
What's going on, Wayne? How you doing?
Hey, blessed and highly favored and excited to be with you tonight here on The Ride, the HBCU Chronicles, man. So I just want to say again, congrats, man, to just getting this opportunity. And it looks like you're right there in your sanctuary already in the office.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. It's I love sitting in this office with the windows up, man, seeing the stadium, just kind of visualizing what we want it to be like, one of those Saturday nights in August, September, and in fall. And so certainly get a lot of work done, but tonight I wanted to be in here and do this podcast. And one, I wanted everybody to see what we have here at Prairie View A&M, man. We're really blessed and fortunate, and that's a beautiful place. And so why wouldn't it? Much better than my kitchen wall that would have been up behind me had I been at home.
Hey, well, it looks very beautiful behind you. And, like I said, you still got that new car smell going there at Prairie View, man. I know it's been a bit of a journey for you to get, from, on your path. So let's just let's talk about the path here, man. So, obviously you've been in coaching for a while. You've been in coaching since 2006.
Yeah.
And, it was interesting that, you had said that you went to the AFCA conference,
mm-hmm.
And that was something that, they were telling you, hey, you need to come to this conference. This is something you need to do. But you actually didn't come away with a job. I was waiting to see that you were going to come away with the job. But let's start there and just go from the conference when you were there and then how it actually led you to that first job.
Yeah, man. So, just thinking back on it, man, I actually went to my first AFCA conference with my high school coach, Van Malone. I was still a player at the other school on the other side of Houston that I won't mention. And just got a chance to go with him before school started. It was in New Orleans, and I was still a player, but I knew I wanted to coach. And so I knew about the convention. I knew about the AFCA because of that. And so when I got done playing and with school, man, I got a chance to go. And he was like, hey, if this is where you get jobs. And so you get on these websites and try to find out, what jobs are open. And he pointed me in the right direction. And I had a couple of interviews set up. But, man, I ain't had no money to get there. And so, man, I was married at the time, and we had a newborn daughter. My daughter was a newborn. And man, I think my grandma gave me $20. My aunt gave me $40, and we basically drove to Dallas from Houston, man, with about $70 in our pocket, and stayed on some floors and kind of just got it how we live, man. And so um, that time when I got there, I had 4 interviews set up, interview with all 4 people, man. And really, looking back at it, I was horrible as an interview. But you go down to the convention, people say, "How'd it go?" Man, I killed it. I killed it. I'm just telling you, I killed it. Man, I didn't kill it. Knowing what I know now, I didn't kill it at all, and I wouldn't have hired me either. Coming from those interviews, but it was good experience. It was good practice. I had never been in a football interview, but I had said that I could do it, and so I was just trying to find my way in, and so I didn't actually get a job until the summer. Is when I got the call from A&M Kingsville to come take an unpaid. They called it a graduate assistant, but it was really unpaid. Here goes some room and board. You can get a meal plan along with it, and come coach the tight ends. And so I went to A&M Kingsville in July of 2006 to coach the tight end. So that convention, although it was good, I didn't know anybody. I just kind of met up with the coaches that had recruited me previously, and guys that with guys that I knew, just kind of floating around. Much different than now when I go to the convention. Now you can tell I've been coaching for a while. But man, that I look back at it and go, man, that's where I got my start, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. I wasn't ready, and but it did lead to me getting the job later on, and so that's how I got in it.
Yeah. Now speaking of that first job, so how many games into that season did you find that path was taking you somewhere else?
Yeah, man, we were 3 games in. So before we get to that point, I went there to coach the tight ends. The D-line coach, the D-line GA, he leaves 2 days before we start fall camp. And so I'm sitting in the staff room trying to learn this offensive playbook of pro style offense where it's like 2 jet right, these long terms. Finally starting to digest it a little bit, and then this guy leaves, and I'm the only guy in the room that had played D-line or knew anything about the D-line. And so our head coach at the time, a guy named Richard Cundiff, man, he coached John Randall at A&M Kingsville. He had been at A&M Kingsville for like 25 years. Dude coached John Randall. He was a D-line coach there with a lot of other guys. And so he pulls me in. He goes, "Hey, man, you play D-line. I'll help you out, but you're going to be the D-line coach." I'm like, man, what? I can't even the coach to tight end. I got this offensive playbook that's huge, and I'm trying to get right for it. And so I ended up flipping over the defense, man, 2 days before camp started. First job, not ready for that job. Get another job within the first job. Certainly not ready for that one. And then we started playing, and 3 games into the season, Coach Cundiff tells the team on a Thursday before we get on a flight to Western Oregon, "Hey man, I'm no longer gonna be the coach after this season. They're gonna let me finish the season, but I'm not gonna be the coach anymore." And me as a young coach, I don't know what happened, because back then they used to have the full-time coach meetings and then the all-staff meetings, right? Well, I wasn't on the full-time staff, so I wasn't privy to what happened. I didn't know why 3 games in. I'm like, dang, we 1-2. Like golly, that's what the business is. You get fired at 1-2. And so I didn't know much, but I knew we had been fired. And so, man, because you hear those full-time coaches, they were talking about their families and things of that nature. And I'm like, man, they're gonna fire me from my room and board. I'm eating meatloaf and corn in the cafeteria every day. And so, man, we were able to coach through that season, and I kind of knew, like, hey man, something's gonna have to happen. I'm probably gonna get fired. So I asked the guy, on our staff. He was our defensive backs coach, and he had been in that situation before. And I said, "Hey, man, when you in this situation, what do you do?" He said, "Man, you better try to recruit. You better try to have some players for when the next guy comes, so you'll have something to fight with." And he was like, "But Tremaine, you free help. Ain't nobody gonna fire free help." And so I didn't chance it, man. I went to work in recruiting. They let me go recruit, and I was able to kind of build a roster while we were playing, knowing that we were going to get let go. I didn't want to chance it on, hey, they're going to keep the free help. And so when that new guy got there, man, I had a whole list of players for him, and he ended up keeping me.
Wow. That's amazing, man. And so like, you talked about how you were married at the time and you have a newborn daughter. I mean, you had a newborn daughter who's now a grown daughter now. I know when you had your introductory press conference, you talked about how your daughter Harmony has been with you along this path.
Yeah.
Talk about just her, the influence that she's had with you, and just how she's been, how the relationship has been through this entire coaching path that you've been on.
Yeah, man. So my daughter was born in 2006 at the same time I started coaching. So she was born in February. I was coaching in March of 2006. I started coaching San Antonio Ravens. It was a semi-pro team, right? So my daughter was born in San Antonio. I was there. We had started our family at that time, right? And so I had an opportunity to go and coach semi-pro, and I knew I wanted to coach, so I just took the opportunity to get in it. And man, I would have to take my daughter to practice because her mom would work at night or either go to school at night. So we kind of had this schedule. And so my daughter's like 2 months old, man, and we're sitting here. I got her in front of me on the little deal where you hold a baby, where you're normally doing something with your hands.
Yeah.
Well, I got her out there and I'm coaching.
Wow.
And she's 2 months old, and I'm probably a bad parent at that time because I got her out here, immune system. It's cold in March. I got her bundled up, man, and we out there coaching because I knew we needed to have some coaching experience. And so for her to go from that to moving all over the country, man, my daughter lived in Colorado. My daughter lived in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. She lived in Missouri. She lived in all parts of Texas. It's just kind of one of those deals where she's kind of like a military kid. And so to see her, when I went to her graduation last May of 24, and I watched her go across that stage, I'm like, man, this kid has been everywhere, all behind me coaching football. And even when we didn't live together, she was able to visit everywhere. And so it's definitely been a journey. It's been a great journey to watch her grow up in this thing. You get the then and now pictures on Facebook and all of that, man. And a picture came up the other day of her and I when I was at Abilene Christian, just outside doing some things on the field. We had just got a dog, and so kind of messing with that, man, and just watching her grow. But most of all, man, I tell the players all the time, she gets exactly what the players gets as far as what type of person I am. So her dad and Coach Jack are the same guy. And so some people, man, when you at home, some people can be somebody else. I can't. I'm not privy to that. I didn't get that. Man, I'm Coach Jack and Dad all in the one everywhere I am. And so just like I talk to these boys about academics, she's on the same path. Just like I talk to them about being a dog, she knows exactly what that is too. And so it's crazy because when she hears me talk to the team, she's like, "Oh yeah, I got that when I was 8 years old." And so we're a parentally coached team, right? We run our team like we're parenting people, and so I always tell the players, I'm not treating you any different than I do my own daughter. Man, it's tough, it's hard, it's in your face, It's confrontational, but ultimately it's all about making you the best that you can be. And I'm really extremely proud of her. A young lady that got all A's at the University of Houston, man, and thriving over there. After my daughter had Erlin's disease growing up, where she had to wear the purple glasses
Mm-hmm.
because the words were running, and I never knew what that was. I was like, "What? The words running." Man, she battled through that, wore the glasses, made it a fashion statement. Went from people trying to laugh at her to people wanting to be like her. And man, just really proud of how she's developed and grown.
Yeah, man. I love that. That's awesome. So, you talked about, we were talking a little bit in the pre-show. You talked about how now you're close, you're back home in the Houston area, growing up. Just talk about, your family influence coming up, playing football. Talk about your mom, your dad. Just talk about that family influence growing up there in Texas, man.
Yeah, man. So I come from a fatherless home. My father, I often tell people, man, you know my daddy more than I do because I've never really met the guy. And so for me, strong women kind of set this foundation for me. My grandmother was probably one of the strongest people I know, let alone woman, the strongest people I know. And so I grew up in a house with my mom, my grandma, my grandfather before he passed, one of my cousins, my little sister, and my aunt. And my aunt moved in with us when her husband passed away. And so a lot of women, man, a lot of women in the house. My mom decided to put me in football, man, when I was 4 years old. And so I don't know why she did that, what made her do that. But my mom worked at the post office at night early on in my career. And so she would teach me things in school, early on. And to where I can remember going to elementary school, and I used to get in trouble in elementary school because I was just bored. I'm like, man, this is my mama taught me this last year, and so I ended up getting tested and tested out of a grade, and all of that stuff, all because my mom, she just had this different vision, and my grandma seconded that vision, right? Like my grandmother had an 11th grade education because when they put in the 12th grade, she called it good and went to work. She was like, "Nah, y'all told me 11th grades. This 12th grade deal
Wow.
ain't gonna work." And so, but you're talking about a lady that didn't finish high school, probably still to this day, the smartest woman I ever met, because she just knew how to get things done. And then my aunt, man, my aunt like tough. My aunt, man, I seen her whoop some men. Like it just, she was just like that. And so had three very different type of women influences on my life. But man, when they put me in football, there was something that just stuck. And from 4 years old, man, being able to play tackle at 5, I was in T-ball, I was in all these different things, and it kept me out of the streets of Acres Home, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what that was at the time, but now looking back on it, I went, man, my mom and my grandma decided that they wasn't going to let me go to the streets because there was some men in my family that had went to the streets. That was kind of a natural path. And so football, man, has always been there. And then when I got older in football, man, we took a picture one time, and it wasn't in football. It was actually in baseball, where we're standing here, and it's everybody and their dad behind them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like 8 of us in a row, and man, it's like player, dad. Then it's me, nobody, player, dad, right? So these two dads, they basically kind of stood in the middle of the gap that was there for me. And man, I went back and looked at that picture. It used to sit on the dresser in my grandma's house, and I used to be like, man, these dudes stood in the gap for me. These dudes didn't know me. We talking about two white guys. These dudes, I just played baseball with their sons. And man, these dudes recognized that I needed help and that I needed something. And so from then on, man, coaches and me and older men had really been a great influence in my life. Coaches were my fathers. And whether you coached me in little league or 8th grade or high school, man, you were like my dad. And I've always clung to coaches.
Hmm.
I was very clingy as a kid. I always wanted to know what was going on, and so all of that stemmed from just my mom, man, putting me in the Oaks Dads Club in Houston, and me playing all the sports, me getting weighed in, being told I was too big, or the helmet didn't fit. Having to go to the high school and get a helmet when I was 7 years old.
Oh man.
My head was big, you know what I mean? And so I've had some of the best experiences of my life behind football, man. I really owe my mom and my grandma that. I've been to Hawaii, I've been all over the world because of this game of football, places I wouldn't have taken myself. And it all started at 4 years old because they wanted to keep me out the street.
That's phenomenal, man. And so you talked a little bit earlier. You talked about your time at Abilene Christian, and I saw something. I told you that I had I had a couple things for you. So
Yeah.
I watched something, and this is something you said a couple of times when you were mic'd up at Abilene Christian. This is Coach Jackson saying number one. It costs what it costs.
It costs what it costs. I still believe that to this day, man. No discounts on greatness, man. It is what it is, and it costs what it costs. And man, those dudes there bought into that. They made T-shirts and they really went into it, man. But people always say what they want to do, but nobody ever want to pay what it costs. I want a Gucci belt, man. It's $400.
Right.
And it ain't no discount. It costs what it costs. And so we look at hard work that way, man. That's pretty funny you found that.
Yeah, it costs what it costs. And then we'll get to the next saying here in a little bit. But the thing that really got me when I saw it costs what it costs, that really just showed me a lot about without even having talked to you until tonight, it just showed me that you were rooted in your beliefs and your foundations.
Yeah.
And that is definitely some foundational teaching to say it costs what it costs.
Yeah.
And that made me an instant believer when I saw it, and I said, I got to make sure that I bring it up for him tonight because I want to make sure that the audience got a chance to see that. Because I don't know how many people had a chance to see that mic'd up moment when you were at Abilene Christian. You were there for what, 2 seasons, I think it was?
Yep, we were there for 2 seasons, man, and had some really good people, really good players at that place, man, that bought into a vision. And that's, we really believe in giving guys a vision and something to hold on to. And that was their theme, and they did that. But like you said, it is rooted in my foundation. I make no qualms about I believe in God, and my Lord and Savior is Jesus Christ. And so for me, it really is about that. And man, when Jesus was on the way to the cross, man, like it was what it was, and it cost exactly what it cost.
Yeah.
And so who am I to take it a day for granted when I know that he paid the cost for us when we didn't even deserve it?
Yeah, and it's amazing when you talk about Jesus carrying the cross. I explained it to a group of folks that he carried that cross 1.5 miles going through paying the price. Paying the price. Yeah, as you said. All right, so you progressed your way through. I know you spent some time at that other place on the other side of town. You said for the sake, we're not saying names, but you spent time across the way. You played there, you coached there.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're going to coach against them. So speaking about just being that you spent time there as much as you did, talk about now being on the opposite side of the fence now. Like what are your emotions behind it? I mean, you could say I don't feel nothing and it could be cool. Or you could just say, hey man, hey, I feel for them except for August 30th.
Yeah, no, man. You know what? I think that they've got a really good deal with who they have as their coach. I got a lot of respect for coaching. Got a lot of respect for the chairs of being a head coach. I think Coach Dishman is a fine coach. Been knowing Coach Dishman in the profession for a long time, and I think they got the right guy, man. Like that's the right guy that can help their program. I will say, for me, man, it's kind of like being in the neighborhood where there's a house on a hill and then you're down in the valley, right?
Mm-hmm.
I look over here, and when you see what's behind me, with a house on the hill, and everybody wants to live in the house on the hill, no matter the attachment that you have to the one down in the valley. It's the house on the hill that everybody notices, and so I'm really excited that they have their guy, because I think this place that I'm at was for me at this time, and so I'm at the house on the hill, and we make no qualms about who we are and what we come to do. And so I'm at the right place with the right people at the right time. And again, got a lot of respect for whatever it is that they do. But man, when we come off this hill, we ain't coming for nothing. You know what I mean? So again, I don't talk big talk. I just tell you what's going to happen. And is when we come down off this hill, I know where we have to go. I know what we have to do. But when we're excited about being at Prairie View A&M, because we feel like we're at the premier FCS football program, not just in the SWAC, in the state, in
Yeah.
the state, in a state that plays good football.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're premier, and we aim to prove that every day that we walk in here.
I also like what you said at your introductory press conference when you said we're not just playing black college football.
Absolutely.
We're playing college football, which leads me to the next thing that I need you to discuss: the dog mentality. So so you talked a little bit earlier about where this came from, but I want the whole backstory behind how you got this. If you borrowed it, cool. Cite your source. But if you came up with it, man, this is amazing. But yeah, dog mentality.
Yeah, I didn't borrow it. Some people are borrowing it and not asking. As I see some people's Twitters that have never been with us, right? So it's cool, man. We're just trying to give back what was given to us, right? Here's how it started. I'm at Colorado Mesa. I get the job like in December, have the press conference in January, similar to like here.
Mm-hmm.
Get everybody there. We start off season training about like we started to do what we're doing here now. Man, 8 weeks happen, and then we all get hit with COVID. So now I'm in the house.
Mm-hmm.
In the house, I had all these grand plans on, man, when I get this team on this field, spring ball, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Couldn't do none of that. And so when you live in Colorado, the one positive about being in Colorado during COVID is that it's an outdoors place.
Right.
And so I'm in Grand Junction, Colorado. National Monument is there. Man, I'm walking in all the fighting snakes because I'm backpacking. I'm doing things that a kid from Houston never thought he'd do. I'm kayaking. I'm fishing for trout that I can see in the water, doing all these things, right? So every morning I would get up and go for a walk just in my neighborhood. And man, we were still recruiting. We were having all these recruiting phone calls and recruiting meetings. And man, some guys kept calling, going, man, you need this kid in your program. He's a dog. I'm telling you, he a dog. And that dog deal just kept going off, man. Like, dog. Man, this kid 5'8", 165 pounds. No dog. And so, when you're in Division II, man, people think everybody can play for you. Like, they've never watched us practice, but people think people can play for us, right? So they sending me these kids, and he's a dog, he this, he that. And so, man, I went back home one day, and I said, man, I'm going to define what kind of dog we are. Like, what are we looking for? And so we came up with being disciplined, being obedient, having a lot of grit. Being disciplined, simply doing what we say we're going to do regardless of who's watching. That's what being disciplined is. And when you really break it down, it's self-discipline, right? Mm-hmm. Being able to do what you say you're going to do. Being obedient is submitting and complying with the authority for the greater good of the team. Most people don't want to submit and comply to anything. It's kind of why we have a lot of problems in our world today, because everybody want to do their thing instead of do our thing.
Right.
And so it'll split your football team, especially then the transfer thing was starting to happen at a major way. Uh, people were going to say, those guys can come in and split your football team. So I wanted to make sure guys submitted and complied with the authority, who happened to be me, the coaching staff, and anybody older than them is what we define as authority. They abided by it. And then having a passion, a perseverance for long-term and meaningful goals, which is known as grit, man, it summed up a lot. Why doesn't most people finish college when they start? They don't have a passion or perseverance for long-term and meaningful goal. Life happens, but if somebody told you you're going to get $1 million, all you got to do is finish college, everybody will be busting their tail to finish college.
Yep.
Because it's important. There's a passion for that. There's a perseverance to get that $1 million. And so we wanted to define what dog was. So that's how we did it. The reason why we don't use DAWG is because when you turn dog around, you understand that God is in it and always has been in it.
Yes.
And so God is a dog, man. Like, just think about these things. Discipline to us, and we don't even deserve it. Obedient, all he asks for is your obedience. But when you really think about it, man, he's giving us more than we deserve. And then you talk about grit. The good Lord got a lot of passion and perseverance for us, because if it was man, we would have got left and dropped off a long time ago. And so, man, we define discipline, obedience, and grit as being a dog and what it takes to be in one of us. All while understanding, man, God is in this thing and always has been, always will be. And so that's where it came from. And I took a lot of flack for talking about being a dog when the mascot was a Maverick at Colorado Mesa. Mm-hmm. I took a lot of flack at the last place when the mascot was something different. I took, and hopefully people here understand what it is. I know we're Panthers, but it don't flow the same way. We're talking about a mentality, man. We're talking about being dogmatic. And these three traits, man, can really help our guys throughout their lives, not just on the football field. And so we decided to stick with it. Somebody told me I need to patent it and do all that. Man, I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm trying to give kids something that they can hold on to. I'm trying to give grown folks something that they can hold on to.
Hey, come on.
And so if you want to get a wristband and be a dog, or not really know what it is and put it on your Twitter because it sounds cool, then great. Just find out what it is, man. And these three things have really led us to the success that we've had, man. And it's been really cool.
This is awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I wanted to make sure I put that out there for sure. Yeah. All right, so we talking about the coaching journey now. Okay, so you get the head coaching job at Colorado Mesa. All right, you already talked about what the adversity you immediately had to face with COVID. All right, but day ones. Now you'd been an assistant, basically a career assistant. Now you're the head guy in charge. Mm-hmm. What was that like? Was it culture shock or what was that like?
Man, I think I was prepared as much as I could be. And here's what I mean. When I was a coordinator at the University of Sioux Falls, I didn't coach a position. I walked around on defense, and I literally was like the head coach of the defense. I was able to do that. That's the way I was able to coach it, right? So I kind of took that as, man, I'm the head coach of the defense. I get to run my staff, and coordination is being a head coach, just being on one side of the ball, not the whole team. Right. And so when I got to Abilene Christian, I was able to do the same thing. And so I had been prepared a while back. And here's the other thing I used to do, man. When I lived in Sioux Falls, we drive home for Christmas. I used to listen to head coaching press conferences for 16 hours. Like, down I-35 to 45 to Houston and back, right? Because about 45 minutes into the trip, everybody else riding with me was asleep.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have much to do. And those times of Christmas going home. That was hiring season. And so, man, I used to catch a couple of them live. I used to be able to go to YouTube and just play. So I kind of knew early on what I wanted to do as a head coach. So when you take that, having a philosophy already built in your mind and having the opportunity to kind of run one side of the ball like you want to, then the seat wasn't too big. But regardless of all that, you still don't get ready for what can hit you until it hits you. And man, I was able to soften the blow because of what I already knew and some of the experiences that I already have, and the people, man, that I was able to call and kind of lean on in that first situation. But COVID really helped me. Nobody wanted to get sick. I certainly didn't want anybody to be affected. But the thing where it slowed everything down for me as a head coach, and I was able to try some things and kind of find my way without the pressures of winning a championship right now, COVID was good for my head coaching career.
Yeah. And then you go from there. So first off, when you're there, you're winning games, at Colorado Mesa.
Yeah.
And then as we talk about this ride, then here comes Valdosta State. So when you got that call about going to Valdosta State, I mean, you hadn't been in Colorado Mesa that long. So, so what was that like?
Yeah, man, it's kind of one of those wild things in coaching. I don't know if I've ever told this story, but I'll tell you. So at Colorado Mesa in 21, we had just beat the number 3 team in the country, first time in program history that they had beat a top 5 team. That also is a rivalry game where Mesa hadn't had the cup for a while. They played for a cup, and they hadn't had the cup for a while. Last time they played Mines, it was like 70-something to 20. And so we, the administration, they scheduled Colorado Mines for homecoming.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'm like, and me, I'm coming from, I got an HBCU background. I'm like, why would we do that? Whose idea was that? Right? And so we find a way to hype it up. We win the game. We finish 8-2. We just missed the playoffs because of the way the Division II playoffs are. And so we as a staff, man, I'm really loving where we are. I'm thinking, man, we're gonna run it back. If we went 8-2 this year, we're gonna put together another squad. We had everybody coming back because of the COVID year, and man, we're gonna be able to make a real run. So I speak at graduation. The students asked me to be the keynote speaker at graduation. Never had done that before. It was an awesome deal. I get home, the national championship game in Division II is on. It's Valdosta State versus Ferris State, right? So I go, man, let me watch this game. One day, we're going to be in this game. And so I watched the game. And I go, man, that Valdosta State team, that they look like what they say they are. It'd be cool to coach them dudes if I ever had the chance. So I leave Grand Junction. I go to Houston for Christmas. I'm standing out at practice at the University of Houston. And my best friend, Archie McDaniel, was the linebacker coach. So I'm out there, I'm watching practice. They're getting ready for their bowl game. And the defensive coordinator, a guy named Doug Belk, he was from Valdosta. And he had coached at Valdosta State. And he came over to me on the sideline, man, congrats on the season. Would you like consider coaching at Valdosta State? They looking for a coach. I say that just played the national championship. I'll walk backwards to Valdosta State. And so I said that, and I'm like, they ain't gonna call me. Like, okay, I won 10 games. I've been a head coach for 2 years. I won 2 in COVID and 8 this year. I'm 10-3. All right, they ain't gonna call me. Man, that was like a Monday. On Wednesday, the AD like text me.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? Me? He's like, hey man, can you interview tomorrow at whatever time for 30 minutes? Yeah, man, I interview. So I'm on my way to go get some Shipley's Donuts in Houston. And I went to Wall Trip. If you from the north side, you know that the best Shipley's is on 34th across from Waldron. The donut's always hot, right? So I'm on my way over there to get some donuts, and I go, oh man, I got this interview. So I pull over into a parking lot, and I basically do the interview on the car phone, like on the speaker. And I hang up the phone. I go, that was okay. It is what it is. The guy that was not the AD, but one of the guys that was on the committee, he calls me probably about 2 hours later. He's like, hey man, the AD gonna call you. He want to bring you in.
Oh,
I said, man, I interviewed while I was getting donuts. And it was serious, but I didn't have all these notes laid out. I was just kind of like, man, I'm just gonna talk to him about what I believe in, and whatever question he got, that's just what we're gonna talk about. And so me and that guy started talking some more. Next thing you know, 2 hours later, we're still on the phone, and the AD calls me and goes, hey, at this point it's Friday now. He goes, hey, can you come on the interview on Monday night and Tuesday? This is 2 days after Christmas. So Christmas is like that Saturday. Yep. He wants me to fly in Monday night, and I'm like, yeah, man, I ain't got nothing to do. I don't go back to Colorado for another week. And so I go and do the interview, man, and when you interview there with the AD that hired me, you know, he's an HBCU guy. He played at FAMU. He's a little short white guy. That was a kicker on the national championship team at FAMU.
Yeah.
And so he knows football. And he had hired all these coaches in that cradle of coaches at Valdosta State, right? And so he really knew, man. And he interviewed me all day. We went over here, over there, to the point to where when I got to dinner, man, I was just tired. And so we got to dinner, man, and they asked me some more questions. And, man, them jokers ended up offering me the job that night.
Wow.
After they had told me, all right, man, we ain't going to do nothing until, after Christmas, after New Year's. I'm like, yeah, cool, man, because I'm tired. But there was a significant point on that interview where the president of the university, he tried me, and I got mad because he asked me what I was going to do to beat a certain team, West Florida, which was the rival there. Well, how you going to beat West Florida? What are you going to do defensively to beat West Florida? I'm like, man, this dude, you're not asking me about the science test. You asking me about something that's in my wheelhouse. And so, man, I pulled out like some equal sugar and some sweet and low sugar, and I started drawing up the schemes of how we were going to beat that team. And I was like, brother, like the football piece is my thing. You better ask me about some fundraising or something like that. Ask me about something that I'm not going to know much about. But don't ask me about football. And, man, when he did that, he really, lit a fire under me. And I started interviewing my tail off at that deal. And I guess that was enough to win the job, man. Mr. Reinhardt called me and offered me the job, and the rest was history after that.
Yeah, and so then you go through your first year at Valdosta after you just was 8-2, and then you go 5-6. So what was that like now? Because that was probably your first sign of coaching adversity, dealing with fans and boosters and things alike. So talk about that experience.
Yeah, so I get that job, man, and I get there in January like I got here. I opened up the books and I said to myself, man, I took the wrong job. I actually thought about calling back and seeing if I could get my old job back because it wasn't set up to be successful, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And, when you take over a job, that was my second time taking over a program. I know what it was supposed to look like. And I felt like I left more where I was than what I had coming in. But there was this expectation to win a national championship. And at that time, man, I think we had 17 scholarships. Well, Division II is 36. And what had happened is the enrollment dropped due to COVID. And when enrollment dropped, student fees dropped. Well, it was a fee-based institution. So when fees drop, budgets drop in athletics. And so you lose scholarships naturally. Well, I didn't know that. And I thought I had asked all the right questions on the interview, but the job was so monumental in our profession until you had to take it. And so we go through year one, and the one thing I didn't do right that I said, man, I can't ever make this mistake again, is I negotiated with the players. I negotiated in the way that we do things. I said, hey, those guys they were allowed to wear jewelry and hats in the buildings and things of that nature. And I said, hey, guys, listen, just don't do it during the week. And then on game day, you can do your thing. That was the wrong decision. And, players going to do whatever you allow them to do. It wasn't their fault. It was all my fault, man. I learned so much in that first year. But when we turned the corner, even though we didn't win the games, we turned the corner in late October. And people had lost to Valdosta State so much in that league that when they beat us, it was like they were tearing down the goalposts. And, bro, I never forgot that. I never forgot how people acted after they beat us in a regular season game. Or I never forgot some of the things that were said in small circles that ended up getting out in group texts and things of that nature. I never forgot that. And, man, I also never forgot the way some of the fans treated me, not because of the football, but really because of the color of my skin. And that reminded me that, we still got a long way to go in our world. If you want to talk about our football, that's fine. But when you start calling me an experiment and saying some things outside of my name and putting it on Facebook,
wow,
then it's kind of a different story. But in spite of, I knew once we got our situation where we needed it to be, and I always tell people this, just tell me the rules to the game and I'm going to play. I just need to know the rules to the game and don't move the goalpost. Once it's right there, leave it right there and we're going to play. And, man, we were able to maneuver, but we had the right people. We had the right staff. Man, I didn't fire anybody. It wasn't a firing deal. If anybody should have been fired, it was me for negotiating on non-negotiables. And so my AD came over. I started calling him 50 Cent because he had a deal of 21 questions on how we were going to get better. What's your plan here? Do you have the right staff? Do you have this? And honestly, Wayne, he pissed me off too because I knew we had the right people.
Yeah.
We just had to put the right program in place. And we did that, man, and went on a run of winning 25 games in 2 years.
Yeah, man. And although it didn't end the way that you would have liked it, just to say where you started and then just hearing the backstory, that makes that whole experience, the way you were able to guide that team to McKinney, Texas, that makes it even a sweeter thing. So now you sit in your office there at Prairie View, and you're in this current day, and the next part of this ride that I want to ask you about now is just coaching from when you started in 2006 up until now in the year 2025. We know we've got NIL, we've got transfer portal, we've got all these different things that expectations that are even bigger than the sport, where coaching is not necessarily just coaching anymore. It's media, it's fundraising, it's community research, outreach, all these different things. But Coach Jackson, just what are some of the nuances that have come even just into your life through your coaching journey over the last almost 20 years now?
Yeah, man, things have just changed. I don't know if they're nuances to me. I just kind of roll with the punches. Some of the things that are happening now, we've been doing for years. People are just now starting to see it. And I'll give you this example. Man, 2008 to 11 at the other place that I played and coached at, man, I think I was the portal before the portal. And if you ask anybody that worked with us, man, we had a lot of those players that were from somewhere else, from higher levels, that's kind of always been a thing. Used to be a little tougher process to get guys, and used to have to find things out in back channels. Wasn't so open like it is now. But like this ain't new as far as the transfer thing. I think what's different is the fact that if a student athlete threatens to sue or goes on the internet and make a big deal about something, the rules change.
Mm-hmm.
And so, whether you like that or not, I think that's probably the biggest difference for me. Like, I just wait on somebody to go on X and be mad at a situation, and then I tell the coaches we need to be ready for this rule to change because that's what it's gonna be. And so, it's different. But what's the same is kids still want mentorship. And people say, why do you call them kids and they grown men? Well, you got to earn the right to be called a grown man.
Right.
You can't be a grown man and then when something don't go your way, you leave and walk out. You can't be a grown man and then you got your uncle over here telling me how good y'all are. You gotta. There's some things that go with being a grown man. So while they're in the safe confines of a football program, they're our kids. They're our kids, and we're getting them ready to be men. But that hadn't changed. Relationships hadn't changed. You can pay a kid a lot of money. He still wants relationship.
Right.
He still wants to be mentored. He still wants structure and discipline. It's not so much the players that have changed. It's the grown folks which they surround themselves with that have really figured out a way to monetize their talent and it benefit them. And it's not every parent, it's not every guardian, but it's a lot of them. And we see it all the time now more than ever when I'm talking to a parent, especially a dad or the uncle to the single mom or the handler, as people call it. They start talking in we's. And sometimes I'll go, hey, man, are you from France? Like, you keep saying we a whole lot. I'm talking about Tremaine Jackson. I'm not talking about we. I'm talking about Tremaine Jackson, the kid. And so we try to combat that the right way. But I will say, man, things are so different than they were 18 months ago. You either adapt or you die.
Right.
And that's what happens, right? And so, man, we know that football is in this jungle, and football is the lion in the sports jungle. And everybody comes to Pride Rock when there's a new lion being born. And we just happen to be it right now. We want to make sure we do it the right way and represent and respect Prairie View A&M in the right manner and be ready for when things change and be proactive instead of reactive.
Yes, sir. And I'll get you out of here on this one here. All right. So here on the Chronicles, I said pre-show that my show, I love this ride of HBCU athletics, but also not just in HBCU athletics, but just the life part of the ride.
Yeah.
And like roller coasters, not every ride is built the same. Some have the highest of hills, some have the lowest, some go fast, some don't go so fast. But part of your ride, now that you are where you are and now that you've experienced what you've experienced, what does Coach Tremaine Jackson hope that this next part of the ride here in this first year at Prairie View looks like?
Yeah, I think it's my expectation that we deliver on what we say we're gonna do. Can't ask the players to be disciplined and do what they say they're gonna do, and we don't do what we say we're gonna do. You talk about that ride, man. It's also when you're on that roller coaster. I don't get on them much, but I also watch who I get on them with. You want to make sure you go with somebody. If you're not a roller coaster guy, you better go with somebody that can support you.
Right.
On that ride with them, right? And I think AD Golf, man, is a good guy to ride with. He's a football guy. He and I often talk about ball a lot, but he's also a relational guy. People don't know the amount of guys that he's got in the office that he's had genuine personal conversations with. And some people say that that's all ADs and that's all coaches. That's not true. There is a conglomerate of people in athletics that really try to use people to get what they want and then move on. That happens. That happens in every profession. But I think I'm on the ride with a good person, with a great guy and a great boss, man. AD Golf is certainly one that we want to ride with, but we want to do what we came here to do. I didn't come here to be the best in Black college. Came here to be the best FCS program in the country, and certainly the most premier right here in the state of Texas, where football is king. Make no qualms about that, man. It is what it is, and that really costs what it costs. And so we want to make sure that we're adhering to the rules and values of our program, that we're making sure we take care of our people in the right manner, players, coaches, support staff, students, faculty, whoever it is on this hill, that we go about it the right way. We serve our community. We give back, which was what was given to us. And so we want to make sure we do that. And I've got a grand responsibility to make sure we do just that. But also, last but certainly not least, man, Prairie View A&M, Waller County, Houston, the 80,000 plus alumni that have went through this university, they deserve to win the Celebration Bowl. And so we came here to do that. And we know how to get there. We got to win the SWAC. We got to win the SWAC West, then win the SWAC. Then we got to fly to Atlanta and get it done. And so that's why I tell people, man, when we come off this hill, it's going to be a little different. It's going to be a little different because we understand the obligation that we have and what we got to do. And we're doing it with the right people. We're doing it at the right place. And so hopefully our time comes when it's supposed to, faster, more than later. It's not a 3-year rebuild. You know, people often say, man, Coach, you normally get it together in year 1 and then do big things in 2 and 3. Well, the plan is here, man, is to do it right from the jump. And we know how to get it done. And so we know it's a tall task, but we certainly look to really step into that role, man, and really do some special things. I love the people that we're bringing. I love our staff that we have. Again, man, it makes me very confident to say when we come off this hill, it's going to be trouble.
Yeah, and this is the schedule for everybody that's been watching and people have been commenting. And you said it. You said it in your introductory press conference. It starts by winning game 1, and you can see the journey as it goes. This is your ride, and what you hope is a ride to Atlanta. And like I said, I'm with you all the way. Except for November the 8th.
I wouldn't expect it any other way. But I'll tell you this, Wayne, we got a unique deal, man. As I talk to people across the country, not many, if any, start off with a conference game, a SWAC West game, and a rival coming out of camp.
Right.
And so it's been that way. It's always been that way. I think one time that in that rivalry, they did it over Thanksgiving or something like that. And I might have been at that game. I think it was here on the hill one year, matter of fact. And so I don't, it's one of those deals to where we know how we got to start and we know how we want to finish. So we got to make sure we prepare in the right manner to do that.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Well, Coach, this was a great thing. It was a great time. I enjoyed spending with you here on the Chronicles. I definitely learned a lot. I hope everybody that watched learned a lot. I know people who are going to watch this back on replay, they definitely going to learn some things. But this is a special ride, and I enjoyed every moment that I had with you this evening. And I look forward to continue to connecting with you as well into the future because we got more talking to do, man. Definitely.
That's it, Wayne. Man, I appreciate you having me. I appreciate you allowing us a platform, man, to talk about our program. Always go Panthers, and I understand where you're going to be November the 8th, and I wouldn't expect anything different.
Hey, you know what it is, but it's all HBCU love at the end of the day.
That's it.
Appreciate you, Coach. Definitely will be talking.
Go Panthers.
All right. That's Coach Jackson, everybody, and that was just a wonderful time, great show. Everybody, make sure you hit the like button on the stream. So this was the first installment of the HBCU Chronicles. We're here telling stories, man. So, just be on the lookout for who we're going to have coming your way next, because this is athletes, coaches, administrators. You know, we're here for the stories, man, and we're here for the people. All right. So I will see everybody next time. Wild Wayne out on the ride.
Thank you for joining us on the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright. As you exit the ride, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the like button, and catch up on all of our prior episodes. Until next time, God bless.